Hello and hi, and a very warm welcome from the town of Salzburg. Hello to the US. It's the 2nd of December and it's time to taste another beer from the Kalea beer calendar. I hope you're all doing fine because we got a really good beer today. We're gonna taste together with a very special person I will introduce to you later. But first of all, my name is Oliver. I'm a beer sommelier and I'm gonna host this day and bring you through this nice evening. But I'm not alone. I got my companion here because you got a direct line right here to Salzburg to chat with us, to ask questions, and all you want to know or share your impressions of the beer and all your impressions about the calendar. My colleague is sitting right here. It's my partner Klaus.
Hi there.
But enough for the talking. I hope you already opened and stored your beer cold and got it next to you. I'm doing it right now. So let's see, second. Oh, over there. Tough challenge right here.
Yeah.
Whoa. So let's see what we have. Oh, great. We got from the Bavarian brewery Wieninger the Hoamat Weissbier. So it's a wheat beer. Be prepared, grab your glasses. But first of all, I'm gonna need our guest. I will introduce him to you in a minute because he's waiting outside at our beer garden. It's a cold beer garden, but I'd bring him in and make it a little comfy right here. Bitte schön. So, Christian, take a seat, make yourself comfy. Hi.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So, our guest today is Christian Wieninger, none the less but the owner of the Wieninger Brewery, not far away from here, from Salzburg. But please introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Christian Wieninger. A bit hard to pronounce in English. Usually when I travel to the States, it's Wieninger or Vinegar, but actually it's Wieninger. And yeah, I'm the owner of the brewery in the 7th generation. Our family runs a brewery for many, many years. And today it's a pleasure to be here and have some beer and talk about it.
Yeah, thanks for bringing your beer.
You're very welcome.
And I think we just start with it. It's a Hefe Weiss.
Yeah,
so
Hefe, wheat beer.
Yeah, wheat beer. So we share the can. I pour in some of it and make another pour to share the yeast, which probably sits at the bottom of the can. You can already see the great foam, the haziness. I know you Americans love the haziness.
Yeah, it's very fashionable.
So, of course, a lot of foam, very creamy foam. And yeah, the haziness probably comes from a lot of wheat and yeast, but tell us more.
Yeah, the foam comes from the protein, a lot of protein that's in the wheat. And that creates that very special foam we have in the wheat beer. It's usually very compact and it stays for quite a long time on the beer. And yeah, the haziness is due to the yeast and protein that's in the beer. It's very typical for that kind of beer. So when you drink these beers, usually you have to see what's left in the can and pour it in. So that you get the real cloudiness and the big picture of that beer.
So take a nose.
Yeah.
So you can tell there that there is a lot of wheat in it. It's very malty, but also fruity.
Yeah, it's very fruity. The fruitiness comes from the special type of yeast we use for it. We cultivate it in our own yeast propagation in the brewery. It's a top fermenting yeast, means during the fermentation, the yeast comes up to the top. And that type of yeast, next to alcohol, it produces other stuff, I don't know the English word, that creates this special fruitiness. Huh? And usually we say banana. This type of yeast, I would say there's a bit peach and apple to it, but it's a lot of fruit in it.
Yeah, it's very special. It's not that common. And I know Bavarian breweries are very keen on having their own yeast strains because almost every Bavarian brewery got wheat beer. So it's very special and important to have your own yeast strain to tell the beers apart.
Yeah, and even when you use the same yeast strain and you cultivate it in your brewery, then you, over the years, you get kind of a house taste to it because you feed it with your own materials and your raw materials, and everybody tries to get the most out of it.
So you see, we got a very competent guest here, so we need to talk a lot, but now just have a toast and cheers to the audience.
Time for that.
Yeah. Cheers, everybody. Cheers. Our first question.
Well, we got a question here, and it's actually already answered by somebody else, but I think it would be perfect for you, Christian, to answer that personally, because the question was not about the beer directly, but the question in America was, what does Hoamat mean? And I think nobody else can explain that better than you can.
I was thinking about that, and the difficult thing is that I think there's no word for this in English, in the English language. It means it's the area where I live, but it's more than that. It's attached to the feeling of the culture of your area, the people who live there. So it's the whole picture of where you live, where you're settled, where you're based.
Thank you very much. And another statement for you, Oliver. The audience loves your beers better.
I know you don't, so 1 point for me. Thanks, guys. Another word, maybe to the word Hoamat, to the meaning. The soccer fans, the Bayern Munich fans, maybe know the mir san mir. This word. This speaks for Bavaria and probably for your.
Yeah, maybe it has something to do with us living in the mountains, and we have a lot of valleys and used to be far away from civilization. And I think this is where we kind of developed a sense of our own little community, and that's also part of that word.
So besides of the name Hoamat, what's the special thing about this Hoamat beer, about this wheat beer?
Yeah, the name says exactly what this beer is about. To say it in just a few words, everything that's in this beer grows not further away than 2 miles from the brewery. Means we have a farmer who grows the wheat and the barley right next to the brewery. We have the water that comes from our mountain spring directly into the brewery. We have a little hops garden where we grow the hops for that beer. And it all goes into this beer, and it's brewed right after we harvest the hops, and only once a year, a special brew we make. And yeah, I could talk for hours about this beer, but that's more or less the main point.
That's nice. Before we talk too much and give you guys a little more time to drink, just play a little movie about your brewery so people can imagine how life is here in Bavaria.
Afrika oder Nordostkanada oder Lüneburg oder Teisendorf. Teisendorf liegt in Bayern, so richtig in Bayern, also in Oberbayern. Und da gibt's eine Brauerei und die gehört dem Wieninger Christian. Die Brauerei heißt auch so, Wieninger. Das ist der Wieninger Christian. Nicht der hier, genau, der ist es. Das ist der Chef der Brauerei. Brauerei, da wird Bier gemacht. Und ein ganz wichtiger Mann fürs Bier machen ist der Bernhard Löw. Das ist jetzt der hier. Und die zwei, der Wieninger Christian und der Löw Bernhard, die hatten schon vor 25 Jahren eine Idee. Und nach ganz viel Überlegen haben die zwei jetzt ihre Idee Wirklichkeit werden lassen. Die Idee heißt Heimatbier. Verschiedene Biersorten werden von Anfang bis fertig in der Heimat der Brauerei Wieninger gemacht. Da sorgen zum Beispiel 12 Bauern aus der Umgebung für die erste wichtige Zutat. Braugerste heißt die. Die haben diese Gerste extra für dieses Heimatbier angebaut. So sieht das aus. Dann braucht es für ein gutes Bier natürlich auch viel gutes Wasser. Viel Wasser. Genau. Das kommt aus den eigenen Quellen.
We saw a little bit about your brewery, about the area where it's brewed. But for what kind of beers does your brewery stand for?
It's in our area, like most of the breweries, they brew a whole range of beers. Brewing for us is a lot about passion and fun, and this means not only brewing one beer, it means brewing a wide range of beers. We have different ranges of our beers. We brew like the traditional beers that have their home in our area. The taste has been developed for many, many years, and it's like the taste of our area. But we also brew more contemporary beers because it's nothing is more boring than when everything is alike. Huh? So you need to do some changes sometimes. And this is like we say it's with the special sense from our brewmaster who puts his special touch to it. We use organic materials for those, and all the seasonals are also in that range. And then we also have a little microbrewery in the brewery where we do experimental brewing, craft brewing, all of the inspiration that comes from people visiting the brewery, from traveling all over, and this is where we get our inspiration from.
And what was the craziest beer you ever brewed there in this small?
Oh, there's so many crazy beers. I mean, they're fancy, but we always say it has to taste good. So that's the main point. I think the craziest beer we ever brewed was a cooperation with a distiller from our area. They make a special kind of schnapps, Enzian. It's made from a root that grows in the mountains, and it has a very specific taste. It's very bitter and it's very strong, and people either love it or they hate it. And we made a cooperation with them, putting one of our beers and barrel aged it in one of their kegs, in one of the wooden kegs. And what came out was really surprising because we had this very strong taste of that schnapps and the beer and the bitterness combining. So this was very fancy. It was cool.
Nice idea. I know, maybe probably you all know, Bavarian brewers are a little limited because there's the purity law, the German Bavarian purity law. But I think it's enough to use 4 ingredients when you can make such a great beer. And in this case, it's also a little stronger than normal wheat beers. Am I right?
Yeah, usually the wheat beers are around 5% alcohol. This is about 5.7, 5.8. So it's a bit stronger. It's because we use it as a festival beer. It's brewed in fall. It's when the temperatures are not so hot anymore. It always comes with a big party when it's ready. So this is why it's good for a little more alcohol. And it makes a beer a bit more full-bodied and a bit more rich.
So we can skip dessert today because it's a little richer, but you don't taste the alcohol. So that's great. It's very easy drinking, good drinking.
Yeah, most of our beers are not very alcoholic in taste. We do usually a very high fermentation. So the beers are very elegant and not too alcoholic.
Any questions?
I do have a question actually that relates again to the Hoamat. People are asking when they travel to Teisendorf, what else could they do in Teisendorf beside of visiting your brewery?
To everybody from the States, I can only say Teisendorf is in the Sound of Music land. So I think this describes it pretty much for everybody who lives in the States. This is what everybody knows. We are very close to the Austrian border, close to Salzburg, right at the edge of the Bavarian Alps, the mountains. We have a lot of nature, many things to explore. Teisendorf itself is a small town. We have about 3,000 people living there. And besides the brewery and our brew pub, I'm afraid there's not too many things you can do. But it's good to spend some time there. We have an open house in the brewery. We are happy to welcome everybody who visits and to show them the brewery, do tastings and have them in the pub. And then obviously Salzburg and some other cities are nearby to do other things.
So in general, it is a great area to visit actually.
Yeah, it is.
Probably for all the American beer tasters, it's very common to have a beer in a can. So for you, a Bavarian brewery, it's not that common. So how do you like your beer in a can, and what are the benefits of it, maybe?
Yeah, there's kind of two sides to it. The one side is that for the quality, it's a good thing because the can is very solid. There's no way that oxygen gets inside. No way light can get inside. Mm-hmm. So for the quality, it's kind of a good thing. The issue for us is more an emotional thing because we only work with returnable bottles. Mm-hmm. We are very much in sustainability and environmental things for more than 30 years now. And this is why the can that produces garbage, we don't have a returnable system for the cans, is usually not our favorite place to have a beer.
But I like the freshness, of course.
It is.
It's really good.
It's good for the quality.
I think we could open another can.
Sure. Why not?
So we do have another. Maybe you need to write Christian to send you over some of his great beers. Maybe the whole package. I can really recommend the Dark Lager. It's one of my favorites. And of course, every bock they are doing.
Yeah, it's very cool now. I travel a lot to the States, mm-hmm. and it's the first time that our beer travels there. For me, it's a cool thing, and I would be very happy to hear some comments. If anybody tries the beer, if you write to us and tell us how you liked it, that'd be very cool.
And I'm curious. I'm not exactly sure what time it is over there. You're drinking this beer, but maybe you can tell us if it's good for breakfast or lunch.
Yeah.
What would you eat to it?
Actually, that's always a strange thing for Americans. But we define a Bavarian breakfast as white sausage and wheat beer. So actually, we could also have this beer for breakfast.
Of course, we will. For now, maybe some gingerbread. And if there are no more questions from the audience, then I would say we enjoy our beer. You enjoy your beer and join in tomorrow for the next great beer from the Calais Beer Calendar. Cheers.
Cheers and thanks.